Hi, my name is Alma Ponce de Leon. I am a Peruvian-born immigrant who is trans, and I work as a teacher, and I also have a background as an artist. I'm really passionate about psychology, and I'm going to school for it. Um, yeah, that's pretty much the blunt of it. I also love dancing.
How did you get into the industry that you're currently working in?
Um, well, at first it was out of need, but I've stuck with it because of, I don't know, I found a real deep connection with teaching. My mom was a teacher, my grandma was a teacher, and her mom was also a teacher. I think it's something that I've just carried within my genes. TGI people are pretty much like any regular human being. We just want safety, we just want shelter, we just want to have access to food, to have a regular job, to be loved, to have friendships. I think people have this really like small picture of us, and I know so many like transgender women, transgender men, and I can attest to how diverse we are even within ourselves. I think people have this idea that we are just like this specific type of people who are like overly sexualized in the media, overly mocked, and people don't even like take the time to like understand us or to connect with the story or to just questioning themselves like what it means to carry a life being trans in our society. And transphobia doesn't only affect trans people, transphobia affects everybody. I think for the longest time, just like the mix of like me being an immigrant, being trans, just made it really hard to find any employment. I have been rejected many times because I'm trans. Like specifically, I have like overheard people after the interview say something about the fact that I was trans. I think, from what I remember, like the only when I actually got the opportunity to finally get a job was because I was hired by other trans people. Especially being like in education field, I feel like people have such a skewed idea of like, oh, trans people are gonna be like making kids this or making kids that or a bad influence. And that's so far from the truth. Like trans people can be so nurturing, can be so tender, can be so motherly, fatherly. And yeah, I don't know anyone who would not benefit from having trans people in their workplace, because trans people can be artists, can be engineers, can be lawyers, and just like any other people, we have the range of capacity of doing all those things, but just people won't let us show them what we can do. There's like some anger and resentment because a lot of people who are ignorant about trans people and will not hire us doesn't realize the damage that can cause. The homelessness, poverty, push into sex work or like just dangerous like living situations, because once you don't have employment in capitalism, you don't have anything because you don't have access to anything. So people should question their subjective bias when they're interviewing someone and not think like, oh, this person is actually better than this person or this or that. Because like I feel like people have such a subjective bias when perceiving everyone. Any person you ever talk to, you have those perceptions that are like informed by like your own life, society, and everything. And when going into employments, you should not focus on whatever noise you have from the outside. You should focus on like who is good for the job, and also like the humanity of like the person that you're interviewing and the needs that they have. And especially when you're interviewing a trans person, you should realize that other people are gonna have those same misconceptions. So the likeliness of us getting jobs is way less than any other people. So I think you should take that into consideration before denying somebody a job, because you're denying somebody so much more than that. I felt really good about myself because I was like, in spite of me being trans and they talking about that, they hired me because like I was good for the job. It was not because of this or that. It was literally just because of me and who I am outside of my transness. My transness was something that actually they were gonna try to use against me, but not even with that. They were like, it was enough. How much you can pass into society as like a binary person when you're a trans person. By that I mean like how much can people just see you as a woman or as a man. Like as a trans woman, instead of just seeing you as a trans woman, just seeing you as a regular woman will grant you so much benefits and so much privilege because you're like your transness is invisible. That shouldn't be the case, but that will help you so much in getting opportunities, and we're so far away from that. But I think that's why it's important to look within yourself and understand that the people that you're seeing or interviewing have the same needs as you do. A huge percentage of trans people who do sex work, who are homeless, who are hungry, who, you know, just suffer from depression and other mental health issues. It's not, I think a lot of the people have that bias that it's like, oh, why are trans people always like doing sex work or this or that? And it's not because we want to do those things, it's because we're pushed by society into those margins and we don't have any other option. So thankfully I was able to talk with the company and they still supported me, and they said they still wanted to find another school for me. And I told them, well, next school I want to tell them beforehand. I want to send them an email saying that I am trans and just talk a little bit about my whole identity and my experience, and also who am I as a teacher and why am I a good fit for the role. Because I thought that would make it's harder to disregard somebody who's already trying to make a connection with you. And well, I got the school that they put me on after that, and then I got another one. So now I'm doing good. So I would suggest just like finding places within yourself and your body that you can keep that for yourself, and finding ways that you can move through society in a safe way. I think when I started transitioning, I also wanted to be the rock that changed the flow of the water of the river, and now I kind of just want to be the leaves that flows in the river, because it's too hard to be the rock that is holding all that water flow, and it's such a weight and no one deserves that. So I would suggest thinking about those things and what feels good for you and what do you want and how can you move through a society that is not made for you. So I think we have to be like working doubly as hard, be doubly as smart, because the rest of the world feels like it hates you. You don't want to also be doing that. Just find some things that will give you hope. Sometimes for me, for example, I also have a background as an artist, so whenever I'm feeling like too much, I will start painting, and that little escapism will help me like think of like new realities that will be beyond what this one is. And in a way, I feel like perceiving and thinking and these different realities will make them true in some ways. Maybe not like in a major scale, but at least what my mom always says is like, and she will always say it in Spanish, so I have to translate it. She says, trabaja en tu metro cuadrado, which means like work on your own square feet around you. So like create within your own bounds, but like even if it's like a small bound, you can still create a lot within that and make it beautiful. I think it's important, especially for trans people, to see society for what it is. And understanding that how that whole kind of weird dark chess game works helps you know how to move you along the chessboard and not fall much through the cracks. Not that, I mean, sometimes it's just beyond us falling through the cracks. Sometimes there's just cracks everywhere and there's no choice but to fall. But sometimes there's also like people who will help you get out of that. I feel like sometimes people will just find an excuse to not hire you when you're trans. But at least when you did everything perfectly, you'll know that it's not about you and it's about the own person and their own projection of their ideas. I think I don't know any trans people who are not insanely talented, smart, beautiful. And I'm always shocked by that. I'm like, every time I'm with like my trans sisters or trans brothers, I'm always just like, wow. I don't know, I feel like people are missing out a lot by not letting us be a part of like society in the way that we should be. Trans people have such an insane experience, such an insane perspective of the world, such a rich perspective of the world, because we literally have lived like so many lives within one life. Mine can expand from that. It's just beyond. You're just missing out if you don't. I think teaching can be a very roller coaster, right? It can be very draining. It can have a lot of pressure. It can be not as compensated as it should be. There's like this small moments that you have with the kids where you're just like, you feel like filled with energy and joy, and you're just like, okay. And I have personally those moments like every day. You've seen the kids grow because you help water that seed. It can be just like this genuine love and connection that you feel with the kids. Or, well, some of them are teenagers, I guess. It's also so interesting for me personally, having had such a traumatic like school experience when I was growing up, because I was really severely bullied. What is the word? Exposure to people like me. Because I know in that school there's gonna be some kids, even maybe they don't know that I'm trans, or maybe they do know that I'm trans, but will just be able to connect with me, and or will see themselves in me, or will see just how much more possibilities there is than they thought there was. Even for kids who are not trans or who are not queer by any means, I think even for this, especially cisgender straight kids, should be exposed to trans people to realize like, oh, this is our reality, and it's not this or that. It's just like, it's just my teacher who is funny sometimes, can be mean sometimes. It's like any other teacher.
Earlier, you talked about your love for art. Can you tell us more about why you love art?
Yeah. So I think art was like my first passion, and I think it will be my last passion. I started doing it since I was in school, when I was being a little escapist because my situation was just like not great for me. It helped me. I started doing art by writing. Actually, I used to write stories all the time. Trans bodies, my own trans body, because there's such a pressure on every woman to look a certain way. Every woman knows it. Every woman struggles with it. I don't know any woman who looks in the mirror and is just like has no care in the world. I think for me, when I do art and when I see my body through a painting, it just reminds me that there is so much more beyond what we're taught, and beauty goes beyond Western perspective and even beyond like any human perspective that we have. More than 2 + 2 = 4. I was working in this Latin American neighborhood, very poor neighborhood, and working with special needs kids. I was the literacy tutor, and it was such a hard day to day because the lack of opportunities that the kids had was just like really rough. Nobody cared that much about them learning and their education. They would just be played movies all day. A lot of them were like 13 and still couldn't read basic ABC. And I've never connected to any kids as much as I did to them. Which made it even harder because how much I knew they were gonna have a harsh reality, because they came from a poor background. They were mostly Latinos. A lot of them, like their families only spoke Spanish. They were special needs. And I wanted to give to them so much, and what the world was offering to them was so little. And also I couldn't do that much. But I remember on my last day working there, my favorite kid, who has the name of my little sister, Isabel, she told me, I think you will be a really good mom. And I, like right after that, I just had to run to the bathroom and like bawl crying, because I think as a trans woman, we're so devoid of the opportunity of being mothers or having that motherly touch and that tender and that care. And it's not that we're not able to by any means. And I think that was like the most affirming thing I've ever heard as a woman. I don't know, it was just something that, like sometimes some people say something that just like goes straight into your soul. And that was one of those things. And I don't think I will ever forget it. Hi, my name is Alma. I am a Peruvian-born immigrant who works as a teacher, and I love doing art. And I'm more than just a trans woman.